Have you ever stopped to think how a big global event, something seemingly far away, can just completely shake up a massive industry, change everything for a huge player almost overnight?
It really makes you realize how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And today on the Deep Dive, that's exactly what we're getting into. We're looking at some, well, surprising and pretty significant challenges Air India is facing right now with its big international plans.
Yeah, and what's really striking, based on this Network Thoughts article we're diving into, is just how deep these problems run. It's not just one thing, it's like multiple layers of disruption hitting them.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack all of that. How these geopolitical shifts, a really tragic accident, and maybe even some strategic hiccups all came together to knock Air India's global ambitions off course. Think of this as your shortcut to grasping the complex and sometimes really tough forces shaping modern aviation. So let's paint the picture final. Air India, they'd been growing quite steadily. As the airline schedule switched over from the winter season to the summer one.
Right, the northern winter to northern summer transition.
Exactly. They were adding more and more international flights pretty consistently.
Hmm.
And they had a clear strategy, didn't they? Something about avoiding overlap with the old Vistara flights after the merger.
That's right. They were being quite careful about integrating those networks, but the main thrust, the core of their international play, was really about building Delhi into a major hub for transfers.
The VIA campaign.
Exactly that. They were pushing hard on offering the fastest route from places like Sydney and Melbourne to Frankfurt and Paris, all through Delhi. And that campaign, it was actually starting to get some real traction.
So they were building momentum.
Definitely. They were adding flights not just on the long-haul legs, but also to nearby countries, Nepal, Thailand, to feed passengers into that Delhi hub. Things were looking up.
Okay, so things are going well. They're building this hub.
But then, almost literally overnight, two things happened that just changed the entire situation. Pulled the rug right out.
Okay, what were they?
First, there was a terrorist attack at Pahalgam back in April. And the fallout from that, unfortunately, included increased hostility and, crucially for aviation, Pakistan closing its airspace to Indian carriers.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, the immediate effect. Longer flight times for anything heading west from India. And Air India, because of its huge Delhi hub and all those flights to Europe and North America, well, they were the biggest loser.
Right, because they were the main Indian airline flying those routes.
Exactly. At the time, the only Indian carrier to Europe, and they still are the only one flying direct to North America. So a huge blow.
And that was just the first thing.
That was the first. The second was a deeply tragic event. The crash of VTANB at Ahmedabad, a horrific crash, killed almost everyone on board and many on the ground, too.
Just awful.
Truly. And the regulatory response was immediate. A directive came down. Check the other Dreamliners. Air India then decided to extend those checks to their 777s as well.
So they took even more planes out of action right when they needed them.
Precisely. More planes grounded, more disruption to the schedule right on top of the airspace issues.
So two massive hits back to back. But the article mentions, I think, a third event that sort of compounded everything, pushed things over the edge.
That's right. On top of all that, you had the short war between Israel and Iran, which led to even more airspace closures. So you have these successive blows hitting them. Long-haul operations already stretched thin.
Yeah.
It really became, as the article puts it, the last straw for maintaining their planned operations. They just couldn't sustain it.
And the result was scaling back.
A big scale back. They had to cut their international network by about 15%. Significant.
And there's a detail here about the timing. Those cuts were meant to end mid-July? Right, but that hasn't quite happened.
Correct. July 15th was the initial end date, but not all those flights have come back online. In fact, Air India has now put out a formal list of changes, and these are sticking around until the end of September at least.
Okay, so this isn't just a short-term blip. What are the specific impacts then, region by region, according to the source?
Well, let's break it down. Australia. Frequencies to both Melbourne and Sydney are still reduced, and that has a knock-on effect, naturally, on those connections to Europe they were promoting. Frankfurt. Paris, the timing just doesn't line up as well anymore.
Right, undercuts the whole fastest connection idea.
Exactly. Then the United Kingdom, some major changes there. They've suspended flights to Gatwick entirely.
Gatwick's gone.
For now, yes. It seems they're really focused on protecting their valuable slots at London Heathrow. So they've reduced flights on the Bengaluru Heathrow route and actually shifted the Ahmedabad flight from Gatwick to Heathrow.
Consolidating at Heathrow. Makes sense. Those slots are like gold dust.
Absolutely. It shows you the strategic value placed on Heathrow access, even if it means cutting elsewhere temporarily. Then the rest of Europe.
Well, it's a mixed bag. Zurich and Amsterdam flights are coming back.
We'll get some reinstatement there.
Yes, but they're sticking with reduced flights to Paris, Milan, and Copenhagen for now.
And North America. You mentioned that was hit hard.
Yeah, North America seems to be the most impacted region overall.
Yeah.
The airspace closures, you see, they didn't just mean longer flights. They created headaches for landing planning, which affects crew scheduling right away.
Right.
And longer term, it means higher maintenance costs because the aircraft are going through more cycles for roughly the same amount of flying time.
Okay, hang on. Can you quickly explain that cycle thing to your listeners? What does that mean for costs? Sure. So basically, a cycle is one takeoff and one landing. If a plane has to fly a much longer detour because airspace is closed, it might take longer but still only count as one cycle. But sometimes these operational changes can lead to more landings or just put different stresses on the plane. More cycles or more stress per cycle means parts wear out faster, maintenance checks need to happen more often.
Got it. So more downtime, higher costs.
Exactly. Plus, the inconvenience for passengers meant they were at a disadvantage. So, yeah, a considerable cutback in flights to North America.
But there was some good news somewhere.
Yes, a small positive note. Flights to the Far East have apparently been reinstated, so some recovery there.
It's interesting connecting this back to the bigger ambition, isn't it? This idea of India as a major global aviation hub.
It really is. That ambition has been there for a long time, you know? Successive governments, Air India itself, they've always wanted to establish India, particularly Delhi with Terminal 3, as a huge hub.
And a privatized Air India was building on that foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. They inherited that T3 hub infrastructure built up when it was government-owned, and they were adding the frequencies, the destinations, really trying to make it work on a larger scale. But now this geopolitical angle, it just carries so much more weight. It has to be factored into decisions much more heavily than perhaps ever before.
The whole new layer of risk.
Yeah.
But amidst all these challenges, the article did mention one new route still going ahead.
That's right, yeah. Despite everything, they are planning to launch flights to Manila this September. So still some forward movement.
Okay. But then there's this other major internal issue, right? Something separate from geopolitics, but just as crucial for actually getting passengers on board.
Ah, yes. The refurbishment delays. That's a big one. You see, they have this whole plan to revamp the cabins on their planes, make them more modern.
Which is vital for competing internationally.
Totally vital. But the deadlines keep slipping. The latest one for the 787 Dreamliners to start refurbishment was April. That's passed.
This is it.
And similarly, the narrow-body fleet, the smaller planes, that was supposed to be finished by June. And, well, it clearly hasn't happened.
And you can see how the crash, the investigation, the airspace problems, all that just takes focus and resources away from getting those refurbishments done, doesn't it?
It's a classic compounding effect. These external crises make it harder to address the internal need for a revamped fleet, which in turn makes it harder to attract passengers, especially when things get back to normal. You need that fresh product.
So it really highlights what the source says at the end.
Exactly. The article makes the point quite strongly. It's probably time for some pretty radical changes to get things properly back on track, move beyond just making announcements and actually deliver.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive really show us? I mean, it's a stark picture of how tangled everything is. Global events hitting a huge airline like Air India, turning carefully laid plans upside down almost instantly.
It really is. And maybe the thought to leave you with is this. In a world where a political shift halfway across the globe can ground your planes, can fundamentally alter national strategies, what does that really tell us? What does it say about the kind of resilience, the adaptability that's needed, not just in aviation, but really in any big industry trying to operate globally today? It makes you think, doesn't it? How much do plans rely on stability that's maybe not as stable as we assume? How much is truly outside our control?